Welcome to Aspire to Retire. I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. I'm here with Ralph and Tim Shore, along with Scott Earhart, all from Welcome Home Financial Partners. As always, good to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Yeah, you're rocking that royal blue today too, Ralph. Loving that. He's like, yep, I know, I'm rocking it. All right, on today's show, we are going to discuss the effects of your retirement savings that an election year brings. On this specific show, we will not discuss politics, but rather how the upcoming election can change your retirement. People are eager for this discussion, so let's hop right in. All right, guys, how does an election year affect your retirement savings and investments? I'm very curious about this.
Sure, and it's a pretty common question. It's a question I'm getting a lot. I'm sure both Ralph and Tim are getting a lot right now. In national election year, the big election that we get every 4 years can have an effect on your retirement savings, on your investments, and it's simply because there is the opportunity for the unknown to happen. Right, left, center, wherever, whoever may be our next president, maybe our next commander-in-chief, they all have very different monetary policies and different ways that they're going to attack things like national debt, like taxation, different regulations that may come about. And anytime we have unknown in the markets, we can get volatility. So things can go up, down, be a little screwier than normal.
Oh, boy.
And what I would also say is there's going to be 50% of the population that's going to be happy, and there's going to be 50% of the population that's not going to be happy. So you need to take the emotion out of the things that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece to that. If you have market volatility, that's because of people's emotions. But I'm not quite sure if this election cycle is going to be a very emotional one or not, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be some upset folks along the way. So with the market volatility, it's just like any other year. We don't know what's going to happen with the market. So control what you can. We can't control what's going to go up in D.C. We don't have any control of that. What we can control is our decisions when it comes to our finances.
All right, so that brings me to the stock market. Can you explain how the stock market might behave differently during an election year and what that might mean for retirees?
Well, traditionally, whenever we have a national election year, the markets tend to contract. Again, that goes back to the unknown. They don't know what the commander-in-chief is going to do. Is it going to be a commander-in-chief that wants heavy taxation? Is it going to be a commander-in-chief that wants open free markets? Are they going to deregulate? They just don't know. And anytime we see uncertainty, tend to contract. Businesses can't plan for the future. So you'll see stock valuations, stock prices, kind of be a little in flux. Now, for retirees, what does that mean? Well, it depends on, are you retired? Are you in the retirement red zone, i.e. nearing retirement? Or do you have a long way to go? If you're in your 20s and you've got a long way to go, guess what? Time is on your side. You have the ability to make the ride happen. If you are in retirement or nearing retirement, it's time to sit down with somebody and see what steps can be taken to limit your exposure to that volatility.
Yeah, and to piggyback, there's going to be market volatility no matter what year we're in. If it's a political year or not, there's a lot of emotions right now, which is really driving the stock market. And as we approach that November deadline, if you will, there's going to be a lot more emotion. So you've got to make sure that no matter what, whether it's an election or not, you've got to be protected. If you're getting close to retirement, like Scott's saying, you've got to make sure that you got protected growth strategies, because then whoever comes, goes, stays, whatever, you don't really have to worry about that quite as much because you're not riding that roller coaster of the stock market.
Very good points there. And so staying with retirees, how can retirees protect their savings from potential market volatility during an election year? We've touched on this somewhat, but what about other ways that they can do to protect things?
So there's always protected growth strategies out there, but the biggest difference between that and what people are used to is the fact that they're using employer-sponsored plans or they're using another IRA that they're managing on their own, where they don't know what all vehicles are out there in order for you to have protected growth. Right. So if you want to make sure that your nest egg is secure, you don't have to worry about the ups and downs in the markets, but still make a decent return, because we've talked about inflation on so many shows, because that's kind of been the hot ticket now is, inflation went up to, X percent. Now it's trickling back down. We've got to make sure that our nest egg is at least outperforming inflation.
I would say most people need to understand that every bucket of money, pile of money, whatever you want to do, has a specific purpose. So if you need liquidity, you don't want to, that's not going to be affected by the volatility of the market. So in order to pay your bills, emergency funds, things of that nature, have it this way so you don't have to worry about the market volatility. If you've got long-term growth 5 to 10 years down the road, yeah, it's going to be volatile, but you don't really need to use that money at that point in time, so it doesn't really affect you that much. But for most people, they just think about one thing. How big is that pot? But you need to have different pots for specific purposes. Would y'all agree with that?
And I think guaranteed income's huge, especially when you get into retirement, because a lot of folks nowadays, they don't have pensions anymore.
Right.
Right. Social Security's kind of up in the air, so we're somewhat undecided on what that's going to bring. So we've got to make sure that we have guaranteed income coming into us, because you're in charge of your paycheck at this point in time. So whether it's the political year or not, we got to make sure that we structure your retirement plan in that way.
Yeah, you got to be ready. And like you said, have money that you can access without penalty. And I'd assume that would mean some kind of a savings account.
Well, there's a lot of different avenues that we talk to people about. That might be one, but that's more for liquidity purpose than it is for long-term planning, things of that nature. So the best thing to do is really have a second opinion, come in and talk to us, see where you are, understand what pot of money does what for you, and not have to worry about the craziness that we have to face over the next 9 months.
I know.
And whatever's going to happen in D.C. is going to happen regardless. The only thing that we can do as Americans is vote. Last time I checked, we were Americans. But some days, some people say this way, some people say that way. The only thing that you can do and have control over is your vote. So get out there and vote. And that's kind of it, because now you need to understand how it's going to affect you if you have all these things in place. It's not going to be as scary as you might think it is.
Yeah, it's a privilege. Get out there and vote. Use your right. Make your voice heard. It's so important to do. And, you know, inflation, we talked about this, and retirees' purchasing power in an election year. You said inflation was trickling down, but is that going to go back up, or is it unknown with the election year?
I'd say it's unknown, and that it's unknown not because it's an election year. It's unknown because it's unknown. I mean, we're in an unprecedented time right now. We saw, post-COVID, we saw some hyper might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but some extreme inflation. Then we thought we were getting a reprieve, but now we're seeing it tick back up. So I don't think it has as much to do with an election year as it just does. We're in an unprecedented time, and retirees need to focus on their purchasing power and use solutions that we can help them identify to ensure that purchasing power is there for the long term.
It's so complicated. None of this is easy, which is why you guys are here. You're the professionals. And before we take a brief break, tell us about our special offer, Tim.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love the opportunity to sit down with you personally in the office and create the very own retirement roadmap. And the best part is, Cheryl, we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
Love that word, complimentary. That is such good news. And we are going to open up those phone lines right now. So if you'd like that personal advice, be sure to call and schedule an appointment. 833-897-4845, or simply scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen. Now, coming up next, we will discuss more about your hard-earned retirement savings and more. Don't go away.
Imagine the future you've been wanting all along. A world where your retirement income is covered and you don't have to worry. Your financial assets are protected, and you have an experienced team fighting every day to grow your assets. Imagine a company creating tax strategies and legacy plans to make sure your loved ones are protected no matter what happens. At Welcome Home Financial Partners, we're an experienced financial team with the right professional licenses and an unbreakable commitment to making our clients feel like family. Here you'll find determined, friendly faces in a world filled with obstacles and problems. We help plan your retirement income to ensure you won't run out of money in retirement. We build in protection to make sure your assets are covered on all sides. We focus on growing your wealth to combat inflation and rising cost of living. And we design tax strategies to help you avoid paying back what you shouldn't while protecting the people you love. Our team never stops fighting for you. With an unparalleled work ethic, we work hard because we know your future depends on it. We're proud to help you choose the life you want to live in retirement. Welcome to your financial future. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. We're talking about finances during an election year. So we're going to get right back into this. All right, guys, can you explain how behavioral biases might influence retirees' financial decisions during election years and what they need to be careful of?
So everybody's got a little bit of a different perspective, right? So you don't need to necessarily worry about all of the naysayers or, you know, what's really going on in the world right now, because you got to focus on yourself, right? Who else is going to pay you when you're retired? It's going to be you. So all those opinions, those biases, you know, if you don't see eye to eye with that person, that doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. So you've got to focus once again about your situation, how you can make sure that your portfolio is going to be secure and live the retirement dreams that you want.
It really depends on that person's goals and aspirations. That's it. Because you cannot sit there and listen to all the chatter that we're going to have to listen to if you don't have a plan and don't understand what your end goal is.
I agree with that. And I think one thing that all retirees or anybody that is saving for retirement should know is if you're working with a financial professional and their biases affect your dollar, you need to look for a new financial professional. No matter what I mean, we said it on the lead into the show, this is not a political show. No matter what we believe politically, that doesn't affect how we advise clients. Clients need to be just given the straight truth, what these numbers, what these investments equal, and how that's going to affect them in retirement. And take all your politics, take all your behavioral biases and put them to the side, both for the client and for the advisor.
I agree. It's got to be black and white so people know the facts and they can make their own decisions based on that. And so when you talk about economic forecasts and how they differ during election years, how should retirees interpret them?
Well, I would say this to anybody. It's the forecasts are going to be right or they're going to be wrong. It's kind of like the weatherman.
Hey,
Cheryl.
now, all right. Side job. I'm a meteorologist by trade, so be nice to me.
But anyways, so just understand that you need to use common sense. You need to sit there and think for yourself and try and figure out the best way you can, because the internet doesn't lie, does it?
Oh, the internet never lies. And
No.
we were recording an episode of our podcast the other day, and we put on two very famous economist clips. And they both, I mean, very, very famous people are paid to be on television. And the polar opposite. Oh, the markets are absolutely going to do this. And then the next clip, oh, the markets are absolutely going to do that. What individuals need to do is do their own research, talk with people they trust, talk with multiple people, multiple professionals, and not just take somebody's advice that's there for clickbait or for, whatever it may be.
It's like what you said earlier about just having the facts, right?
Yeah.
That's how you base your decisions. You base it off the facts and not your emotions and not the hot takes, because that's what everybody's looking for now is, hey, I was the one who said, 6 months ago we were going into the recession when everybody else wasn't. So there's so many people out there that are just shooting different things, seeing what sticks. You've got to look at the facts, and that's what it comes down to.
Right. And you can't let fear kind of influence your decisions as well, because so many people say, oh, I guarantee it's going to be like this. And they're not professionals who are saying this. I'm like, where are you getting this information from? So you have to be practical about it. And what practical steps can retirees take to ensure that their financial well-being remains intact during an election year?
I think the best step that we can offer from this desk is come in, sit down with us, and go through our retirement roadmap process. Let us run the cash flow analysis for you, show you how you are for income, and then we can talk about other retirement plans and how we might shore those up for you so that it's going to be there for the long haul, for the 20, 30, 40-year retirement that we all hope to have.
But I would also say you need a second opinion. No matter how good you got it, you think you got it, you may not be as good as you think you have it. So have a second opinion, because let me ask you this. If you turn on channel this way here, they're going to say this. If you flip it over to the next channel, it's going to say exactly opposite. So who's right, who's wrong? They don't know your situation.
Right.
So if you come in and talk to us, we know what your end goal is, because that's one of the conversations that we have, and we guide you to those things that would help better your situation.
Yeah, it's almost like you guys are a therapist in a way.
Financial psychiatrist is what I call it.
I like that.
But there's a lot of people out there who have done everything for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's building up that wealth or what have you. Retirement's not a DIY project. So you've got to sit down with the professional and say, hey, this is what I've done. You can pat yourself on the back to a point, but then you got to turn the keys over to that professional, right? And it's still a team approach, but you've done well with creating that wealth. Now let's talk about the distribution phase of your life.
Distribution phase. Want to keep that money. Now, it gets me thinking about changes in government, too. What changes in government policy should retirees be aware of during an election year? It's something else to consider.
Well, there's always two sides, right?
Yeah.
This side says this side says the opposite, and vice versa. Doesn't mean either one of them is right or wrong. It's just what it is. So there's so much talk about that. I mean, Social Security is one of the biggest takes that they talk about now, about how a certain side wants to see it, go away. Some people don't. It's just control what you can, and that's what it comes down to is, when you're entering retirement or you're close to retirement, I don't care if it's an election year or not, you've got to be well prepared, right? So back in 2020, things hit us that we've never seen before in our lifetime, right? So you've got to make sure that no matter what happens, your retirement portfolio, your plan is going to be in place to sustain no matter what happens.
So are there any specific steps that retirees should take to adjust their financial plans right now? I mean, I know you said you got to be careful with risk and whatnot, but it gets me thinking too about the outcome of the election. One person says they want to do this with taxes, one wants to do this. So how do you know how to adjust it?
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there. What I would have jumped in with, Social Security is a very, very real issue, but I would have said taxation, because that to me seems like where we have the two polars out there right now, and how is that going to affect a retiree? So the best steps that they can take are continue to be in diverse buckets of types of dollars and have a team of professionals behind you that understands what's going to happen, knows how to interpret what does come down in regulation from executive order from DC, and then can tell you how it's going to affect you, your retirement, but be nimble enough to help you make changes if changes are needed.
I do believe there was somebody that said one time to be leery about this saying, we're from the government and we're here to help. So if you really think that the government is going to help your situation, then you need to kind of reevaluate it, because there's always going to be different changes, particularly with small business people. The regulations that we have to deal with and the things that we're going to be dealing with is very important that we understand where we are and where we need to go. The end result is your goals, where you want to be.
Yeah, it is.
But you also have to be proactive, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're waiting on somebody to come into the White House and they said that they're going to change this or they're going to change this, you've got to be proactive. Don't wait for that thing to happen or not to happen, right? A lot of times there's not a whole lot of results produced. So you've got to be proactive in making sure, once again, that you're going to sustain no matter what happens with the market.
So what you're saying is you can't put, or you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, banking on this person winning the election and doing what this was said, and because then you might be in trouble if that doesn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to take a brief break here, but Tim, one more time, the special offer.
All right. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love the opportunity to have you in the office, talk about these topics, and create your very own retirement roadmap. And the best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
Good stuff, Tim. Keep those questions coming. Take advantage of our financial professionals and call for advice right now, or even schedule that consultation at 833-897-4845, or scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen. Coming up next, my favorite part of the show will feature some of your burning questions. Stay right there.
It was the longest running bull market in history. Everything was looking up. While inverted yield curves pointed to a recession, the market kept going. And then, if you're planning to retire soon, that could spell bad news for your returns. Our team can help you better withstand the bear market. Now more than ever, you need a financial professional to stand with you. Visit our website to learn more about our services. You can call or email our office to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. It is our favorite part of the show, time to feature some of your questions. And we will start with Tom from Montpelier. Tom says, I've heard you talk about Main Street rather than Wall Street. What do you mean by that? Good question.
That's a great question. I want to thank Tom for listening.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite statement ever.
Oh.
So when we talk about Main Street versus Wall Street, Main Street is us. Main Street is your average Americans, people living here in Central Virginia that work normal jobs, that lead a normal life, not people up in New York trading markets, going crazy, running around, not not people that are up at 3 a.m. trying to trade the Japanese markets and future. That's Main Street is real, everyday folk, and that's who we're here to work with. And that's honestly what gets affected most by what's happening in November of this year.
A good answer. We're talking all about an election year, so that's what he's alluding to there. And yeah, got to focus on us right here in Central Virginia. Love that. Next up is Betty from Chesterfield. Betty says, I'm worried about my investment performance due to the unknowns of the election year. My advisor keeps telling me everything will be okay, but I don't like that passive approach. What should I do?
Well, I think you should treat this year just like any other year, right? It's all about the age and stage that you're in. If you're getting closer to retirement, let's not worry about the market volatility quite as much, right? But that means that you have to take action. You can't bury your head in the sand. You've got to do what's right for you. If you've got an advisor that you're working with and the only line he ever tells you to do is stay the course, ride it out, then maybe it's time for that second opinion. Sometimes that philosophy works, but it depends on what age and stage of your life you're in.
But I would also say somebody that tells you that means that they're just focused on accumulation. They don't have maybe your investments structured to handle those 3 different buckets that we talk about. So if it does go up and down, you're going to be in a world of hurt when you start needing that money if it's not there. Because last time I checked, when they start taking $500,000 away from you in your bank account.
Ouch.
Yeah.
No.
What I'd say to Betty is if you are working with someone that isn't invested enough in you that they're going to take your phone call and walk you through, give you real answers other than, it'll be okay. You're working with the wrong type of person. So whoever you're working with needs to be willing to listen to you and take time to at least walk you through why they're making their recommendation so you can understand it so you don't feel as confused.
Yeah, that's what I love about what you do, because you do take that time. You have the roadmap and you walk through everybody's individual financial situation, which I think is amazing. And I think everybody needs it because we don't learn this in school. As much as I would say we should have learned it in school, I don't know. So most of us come up empty-handed with that, but great question. Okay, Barbara from Glen Allen says, are there solutions to limit my losses but still participate in the potential upside?
Yeah, absolutely there is. But once again, you got to take the action. Give us a call. We'll love to bring you in the office and we'll talk about protected growth strategies. But everybody always thinks being conservative and not taking any market risk means, hey, I'm just going to take everything out. I'm going to put it in a CD at the bank. Well, guess what? Now you've lost liquidity. So there's a lot of things that you can take a look at. There's a lot of opportunities out there, not just your 401k, your 403b, 457, whatever it is. But I think a lot of people, as they get closer to retirement, they are looking to secure that nest egg. So there are ways to do it. But Barbara, I'd tell you, come on in and we'll have that chat.
All right, good stuff. Rick from Mechanicsville says, my wife and I are pretty comfortable, and our main goal now is to make sure our children and grandchildren are taken care of when we are gone. Oh, that's sweet. We are fearful of a large market downturn and new taxation hurting them. So what can we leave to them, and what can we do to make sure that they're okay?
What I would say to them is to understand that there are ways that you can have money coming over to your grandkids or whoever without any tax implications to them. If that's of concern to you, then we need to sit down and have a chat about that. Because number one, most people don't understand that there are ways that you can take that money away from your 401ks coming over to your grandkids without that taxes, or they don't understand that if they leave those IRAs to the kids or grandkids, then there's different rules and regulations they have to abide by. So that's why it needs people need to come in and sit down and talk to people like us.
How would they avoid the taxes there?
I'm not going to avoid all the taxes, but I'm talking about for the kids. If they receive their IRAs, that's going to be taxable to them. If they received another type of investment that wouldn't be taxable to them, might be another choice for them to take a look at.
Interesting.
And there's some offsets out there that we could explore that maybe the taxation is due, but there's another lump sum of money that isn't taxable that can help you offset that taxation. So for Rick, there's a lot of different solutions out there. but you definitely need to sit down with us. Let us walk you through what those would be, because some might be right for you, some might not be right, but we don't know that until we meet you in person and go through your situation on an individual one-on-one basis.
Okay. Iris from Richmond says, when the pandemic started, I pulled all of my money out of my investments and put it in a credit union. I've been too scared to go back to investing because of all the ups and downs. I'm still scared because of the election. What should I do?
So this kind of goes back to the emotional side of investing, right? So, when 2020 or 2008 or whatever it is, when you take that big loss and you cash out, what if you had an immediate rebound? So you're going to miss out on that. So you've got to make sure that you keep emotions out of it, but that doesn't mean that you stay 100% into the market at all times, right? If you're an emotional person, we've talked about it before, is you got to have patient money and impatient money. Impatient money means you need to secure that because you're going to be impatient and emotional if you lose it, but your patient money needs to be in the market because the market's going to go up, it's going to go down, doesn't matter if it's an election year or not. So you've got to make sure that you need to think before you react. And if you get emotional, a lot of times we don't think.
Oh, it's so hard. I know. I'm always impatient with my money, I feel like. One more question. Mark from Chester says, I'm looking to retire in 2025. I'll be relying heavily on my 401k account in my retirement. How can I protect my retirement funds?
That's a really good question, Mark, and we can't answer that on television because we need to sit down, chat with you, look at what your goals are, how much liquidity do you need, when do you want the distributions to be in, blah, blah, blah. A lot of stuff that's going to go into that. So what I'd say to Mark is there are a ton of options out there available to you. We just need the opportunity to meet with you individually and understand your situation so we can guide you towards the best solution for you.
All right, guys, that wraps up today's show. But before we go, Tim, remind us one last time of our special offer.
Thank you, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who say $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. If you are nervous about this year being the election year, we'd love to sit down with you personally and create your very own retirement roadmap. And the best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
Take advantage of our professionals. Thanks so much for joining us today on Aspire to Retire. If you would like more information, make sure you scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen or give us a call. On behalf of all of us at Aspire to Retire, I'm Cheryl Nelson. Have a great day.